Chief Minister, Manipur, Shri Gai Khangam, Honorable Deputy Chief Minister, Manipur, Shri T.H. Lokeshwar Singh, Honorable Speaker, Manipur Legislative Assembly, Shri Madan Prasad Bej Barua, IAS retired, Honorable Member, Northeast Council, Ministry of Donor, Government of India, Shri P.C. Lomkunga, IAS, Chief Secretary, Manipur, and Shri M.K. Das, IPS, DGP Manipur, Shri Girish Shankar, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, as the Chief Guest, President and Guest of Honor, respectively.
Department of Tourism, Government of Manipur na Sinjaba Manipur Sangai Festival, English nga ni Supna Tarahumdoi, ngasi Lotion Benumitni. Numitara ni Supna Zatarakpa, Manipur Sangai Festival gi Lotion Benumit Asida. Bagasandra Open Air Theatre da Lengsin Beribakwai Punamak Ahanbada, Sinjariba Manipur Tourism Department gi Maikedagi, Ikai Kumnaziba Uchabagalunana, Ngasigi, closing functions da Domutaram Uxeri. Ngasigi, Tamjariba, closing function gi. Fajaraba formal functions sida, Chief Guest, President Amadi, Guest of Honor, when election Binanabagidamak, Aina Ming Panjariba, Ahanbada, Siri Okram Ibobi Singh, Honorable Chief Minister of Manipur, Shri Gai Khangam, Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Manipur, Shri T.H. Lokeshwar Singh, Honorable Speaker, Manipur Legislative Assembly, Shri Madan Prasad Bej Barua, IAS retired, Honorable Member, Northeast Council, Ministry of Donor, Government of India, Shri P.C. Lomkunga, IAS Chief Secretary, Manipur, Shri M.K. Das, IPS, DGP Manipur, Shri Girish Shankar, Additional Secretary, Minister of Tourism, Government of India.
Ladies and gentlemen, the host of the Manipur Sangai Festival 2013, Tourism Department, Government of Manipur, will now accord a very warm and hearty welcome to the distinguished dignitaries of today's closing ceremony. Presentation of cocoon rosettes handmade by Sericulture Department of Government of Manipur will now be presented to the Chief Guest President and the Guest of Honor, which will be followed by presentation of floral bouquets.
Ahanbada Lengsin Biribang Asige Chief Guest President Amadi, Guest of Honor gi mafamda Manipur gi Nupi Singh na Maruina Shazaba cocoon rosette Ahanbada Kudol Tamjari Sigi Matangda floral bouquet Matang Chief Guest President and the Guest of Honor singing from the Kudol Tamjari.
After the presentation of rosettes and bouquets, Shri Mairembam Prithviraj Singh, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, Tourism, Youth Affairs and Sports Manipur, will present traditional Lengyan and the memento of the Manipur Sangai Festival 2013, Sangai.
Sigimatanga, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, Tourism and Yas, Shri Mairembam Prithviraj na Lengyan Fi Amadi Sangai Memento, Masigi Lengsin Biriba Chief Guest President Amadi Guest of Honor, Singima from the Kudol Tambigani.
Ladies and gentlemen, traditional Lengyan painted with the royal motif Kamen Chatpa and the picture of Sangai, the state animal of Manipur, being presented to the Honorable Chief Minister. Please give a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, after the presentation of traditional Lengyan, exclusively designed memento of the Manipur Sangai Festival, a brass replica of the dancing deer Sangai, the state animal of Manipur, will be presented to the Chief Guest, President and Guest of Honor by the host, Shri Mairembam Prithviraj Singh, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, Tourism, Youth Affairs and Sports, Manipur. Dr. Rajesh Kumar IAS, Principal Secretary Tourism, doing the honors of presenting the memento of the Manipur Sangai Festival 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a big round of welcome for the Chief Guest President and Guest of Honor of the closing function of the 10-day-long Manipur Sangai Festival 2013.
Sri Dr. Rajesh Kumar, Principal Secretary, Tourism. Ngasigi Lengsin Biriba, Honorable Chief Minister, Chief Guest Wona Lengsin Biriba, President Wona Lengsin Biriba, Deputy Chief Minister, Amadi Guest of Honor Singi Mapamda, Sangai, Replica, Ngasigi Memento, Matang Kodol Tambiri.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kanglasha, the state emblem of Manipur, will now be presented by the host, Shri Manipur Prithviraj Singh, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, Tourism and IAS, to the Chief Guest President and Guest of Honor of today's closing function. Presentation of Kanglasha to the distinguished dignitaries.
State emblem Oiriba, Kanglasha Gi Memento, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary Tourism, Sri Manipur Prithviraj Ngasigi, Chief Guest, Honorable Chief Minister of Manipur Gimapam the Kodol Tambari, Matang Ngasigi President, Deputy Chief Minister Manipur Sri Gai Khangam, Lonana Lengsin Biriba, Guest of Honor Singi Mapam the Kodol Tambiri.
Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of Kanglasha to the Chief Secretary, Manipur, DGP, Manipur. The welcome address will now be presented by Shri M. Prithviraj Singh, Honorable Parliamentary Secretary, Tourism, Youth Affairs and Sports, Manipur.
Very good evening, everyone. Sri O. Ibobi Singh, Honorable Chief Minister Manipur, Chief Guest of today's function, Sri Gai Khangam, Honorable Deputy Chief Minister, who's presiding over today's closing function, Sri Madan Prasad Bej Barua, Honorable Member, Northeast Council, Ministry of Donor Government of Manipur, all the Honorable Ministers, Honorable MLAs, Sri P.C. Lamkunga, Chief Secretary Government of Manipur, Sri M.K. Das, DGP Manipur, Senior Officials Board from the Civil and the Police Department, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome this august gathering on the occasion of the closing ceremony of the Manipur Sangai Festival 2013. We have had 10 beautiful days of cultural extravaganza. In these past few days, we have had glimpses of what Manipur could offer in respect to cultural heritage, folk dances, indigenous cuisines and music, adventure sport and natural beauty. The Manipur Sangai Festival this year by far has been the grandest. We were honored to have Shri Pawan Singh Gattuwarji, Honorable Union Minister of State, Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region and Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs as the chief guest on the opening ceremony. We had so many participants from the neighboring country, Myanmar, including their chief ministers of both Saigon and Mandalay region. Their cultural performance was a delight. We also had Chinese delegation participating in the festival from the Zhejiang province. It is indeed the greatest honor of our state to have so many important and special guests in the Sangai Festival this year's edition. As we come to the end of our festivity today,